Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sarcastically Optimistic podcast. It has been a quick, hot minute. I have missed all of you. I'm not really sure if anyone quite noticed. To be quite honest, I don't think anyone did, but I've been gone for quite a while. Sarcastically Optimistic hasn't been updated in a long time. But if it's your first time here or if you're coming back, thank you for coming back and thank you for even just taking the time to listen if you're a first time listener. Welcome to this podcast, which is called Sarcastically Optimistic, powered by yours truly. You're like, why is this podcast still existing? Why does it exist in the first place? Just to let you know that you can do anything in your life. And what this podcast is just a really strung out, chaotic shower thought. It's kind of revolving around books, a lot of principles that I'm learning from, articles, books, but also really, really close friends. And I'm really hoping to have a couple of them feature soon, very, very soon. I'm very bad at reaching out to people, but we will get there. But my mom was on the podcast. She talked about life lessons and things like that. Again, this podcast was created to kind of get into tools that you can personally use in your own life, and hopefully that you gain something out of this, and you walk away with something. And yeah, this is why this podcast was created, and I'm just really glad to be here and actually be back. So just to clarify, I've been gone for quite a while. Just to be completely transparent with you, there are a lot of things that were negative that happened that kind of discouraged me from continuing this. So these past, I think 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it's been longer than I think it was, but it's just been a lot of ebbing and flowing, kind of discussing with myself and my mind whether I should continue this or not. Just to be honest with you, there are a lot of comments and stuff that were made that I heard. I was just like, should I even do this anymore? Like, is there any value in this? Again, this podcast was created in order to provide you with value. It's not something that is about me or revolving around me. So I apologize if, yes, the voice that you hear most of the time in this podcast is my own. And again, I apologize way in advance since the first episode for that. But we will have people on. I'm just trying to figure out how to outreach properly and also kind of provide the most optimal audio experience for you. So yeah, just these past weeks have been kind of rough thinking about if I should continue this or not, if I was actually providing the value that I wanted for people. And I didn't want to give anything less than that, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, it was kind of tough, thinking about it. And also I talk about it with people too. And, I got a smack in the back of the head about like, why would I overthink this? And yeah, I think I was overthinking it, but I did hear comments that were really discouraging. But the thing is, we're still here. And what I realized, if you guys don't notice, I don't count these episodes anymore. I'm like, oh my God, we're on episode this or whatever. I think we're on 20 now, which is crazy because this, again, was started out of nothing. And I just want to thank every one of you for being part of this. And I'm already talking for 3 minutes without getting to the topic. But I wanted this episode to be just a genuine thank you to everyone that has been following along in this journey. I know I may talk too fast, I may talk too bitterly, and maybe I just talk and you're just like, why? But we're both here, and I like to thank you for really taking the time to listen to this. So yeah, again, the past couple weeks were discouraging, but we're here and we're clear, and I am recording this, and nothing ever is going to stop me from doing that, because I felt like I was leaving everyone in such a weird place where like if I just stopped, it's like, wait, what? Like, why would not like anyone would care, but I wanted to provide you with the value that you all deserve, and I just didn't feel like I was doing that. So if you have been following along for the past episodes, the past 19 up until this 20th episode, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Really, I don't want to be some sort of persona that's different from who I am outside of this podcast. So hopefully I don't seem as different. Like I'm like just like a negative person in reality, but yeah, just transitioning in this life, there was a lot of negative things that were creeping up in my head. And I think a lot of you can relate to that. And it just kind of compromises your own momentum, right? Like you just think about, should I continue this project or like this or whatever? But you should keep going. And I think this episode is and it should revolve around the idea of perseverance. And this is something that was talked about in a TED Talk. Again, I don't want to use books as a crutch. I want to use books as a vehicle in order to reach these valuable lessons that you can probably use. And I don't want to be like, okay, today's book is um, without providing maximum value for you. So I'm kind of spitballing here. This is a podcast that is our podcast episode that is very streamlined. It's just kind of random and all over the place. But it's just to clarify that perseverance is sometimes mixed up with like willpower and kind of mixed up with motivation, but it's not really, right? Like motivation and willpower is kind of like your battery, right? Like your phone has a certain battery and percentage, and as you go through the day, that percentage decreases. Depending on if you're an extrovert or introvert, that decrease in energy levels is kind of fluctuating, right? Like some people lose a lot more energy than a normal other person, not normal person, sorry, but like another person if they were put in a social setting. So maybe someone will go to a party and after that party they went from like 90% to 20%. But some people, they thrive off of that, which we call extroverts. So they go from 90% and they can even increase, they recharge from that. But sometimes, in life, as we go through the day, you realize that, we kind of lose our motivation that we did and willpower that we had in the morning. We're like, I'm going to do this and that. And then when you get home from school or get home from work, you're like, I don't want to do anything. And that's completely normal, right? And I was reading this book, and that's the reason why candies and things like chocolate bars and all the sweets that you shouldn't have too much of are placed right at the cashiers, like in the grocery store, like they're right next to the cashier. It's because that our willpower, because we're going through all these aisles, is decreasing because we're resisting so much throughout our trip to the grocery store. So by the time we reach the cashier and we're about to leave, we're like, one little like Take Five or Kit Kat. Do people eat Take Fives? One little Kit Kat won't hurt. So that's why they put that there. It's a psychological thing. But the thing is, willpower and this motivation that we talk about are not the same as perseverance. And sometimes we hear this perseverance exchanged with the word grit. I don't know if you guys heard that word grit. Grits, like plural, that's like a food, right? Like, which is really great. But grit is like another characteristic that is not as talked about as perseverance, but they're kind of in the same light. So perseverance is no matter what comes your way, you are still pushing through, right? There's going to be a wall, a brick wall that you're going to be met with, but you are continually pushing against that wall until you go through it. And that's what kind of grit is, right? Grit is a very powerful word and but grit is a very powerful word that isn't really typically used as often as willpower, motivation, and perseverance. But I think it's something that you should also include your personal statements and things like that because it holds a lot of value. And it hasn't lost its novelty yet. It's still pretty novel, like a novel term. Like no one really goes around saying, "Oh, I have a lot of grit," right? Like no one says that. People talk about True Grit, the movie, but grit again is perseverance. That's essentially what it is. It means that your willingness to do the uncomfortable aspects of things to get to your goal, right? We all have this vision of who we want to be, where we want to be, what house we want to live in, and how big our pool is going to be when we grow up. But the thing is, the difference between the people that are successful and the people that are not successful, it's a very fine line of grit. Like it's just, are you willing to make those sacrifices? Are you willing to push harder and harder, right? Not enough to burn yourself out, but enough to persevere and have that grit to, in this case, right, persevere through the negative comments and all the things that are trying to bog you down and discourage you from achieving that goal that you have for yourself, and pushing and pushing. Sorry, I hit the mic again. Pushing and pushing through until you reach that goal, right? Because that grit is actually can be coupled with beautifully with passion, right? You're very passionate about something. You don't want to compromise your vision or your dream or your passion for something that the world is telling you to settle for. You don't want to settle ever. When you're passionate about something, you have this weird energy that you have this gravity that's pulling you towards that goal, that passion, that dream that you have for yourself. And that momentum that between, your goal, your dream, your passion, and that momentum you gravitating towards it is perseverance, it's grit. And yes, there's a little willpower and motivation there, right? You're motivated, but we can easily lose motivation and willpower. But grit and perseverance is basically a simple question when you're greeted with a brick wall or like a bad comment about your passion and things like that. The question is, are you willing to push through, right? Are you willing to continue forward? And easier said than done, right? Like people just give up because the world is dictating to us what we need to become. A lot of the students that I had in my class were talking about what they want to be when they grow up. And I'm just like, I'm talking about biology here because I was a biology teacher. I was like, I don't really care. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just like, it's so random that they're mentioning like what they want to be. And a lot of them had this goal, right? A lot of them were like, I want to be an entrepreneur, which is like literally what everyone else wants to be. And I was like, what do you want to do? It's like, I just want to sell things. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be my own boss. And yes, that's a good vision. It's not very clear about what they want to do, but the fact of the matter is that that vision exists in these beings. So although it was just like kind of like, what? Like what are you talking about? Like you just want to be that? That idea of that living and existing passion and dream that they have, the simple existence of that in that person is what matters. So I just want to clarify that even if you have these big dreams, you have all these things and you're scared of people laughing at you and things like that, that existing within your consciousness, that exists within your being matters. And that, some people are just are not born thinking about those things. Some of them just want to settle for less, and those people. I don't need to name them. You want me to name them? No, I'm just kidding. But sorry, my chair is really squeaky. But the thing is, you have ideas of who you want to become. You have ideas of where you want to go. Do not ever let those things die. Don't let those things be compromised by external feedback that is not really constructive, because we can live life to the fullest. And we do need feedback, right? We do need people to clarify things that we are capable of and we're not capable of, right? Like if we dream of something and we don't kind of consult with someone from a third party saying like, what do you think so far? How are we going to improve, right? We're never ever going to improve if we don't have like some sort of feedback. But as long as it's constructive, feedback can be constructive, but it can also be destructive, meaning that these people can also tear you down, maybe out of some sort of other emotion like jealousy or envy. But the thing is, we're trying to seek these people that would give genuine feedback of where we are in life. And where we are in life, we may have some sort of perception of it being perfect and that we are doing a successful job. But it's always important to have somebody, whether it be your parent or even a friend, right? Like if you prefer a friend over a parent, just asking them is like, oh, what did you think? Right? Like, what do you think? Like, and these are people that you genuinely trust to give you really constructive feedback about who you are and what your passion and where it's going, right? So always seek those people. Those will be very important because those people will really bolster or really aid and help with your journey in life. Whether, shout out to my students who want to be entrepreneurs, you already have those close friends that are going to tell you what are some things that you could possibly do. Maybe they'll add some ideas to your plate. But keeping in mind with the idea or this concept of this episode, which is grit and perseverance, having those people in life will allow you to feed into that grit and perseverance, knowing that people believe in you, knowing that people believe in your vision, rather than hearing and then clouding out all those positive things and only hearing all the negative things that people say, like, why are you doing that? Like, you're crazy for thinking that way. And, who are you to be doing that? You are you to be doing that. You are capable of doing so many things. So going back to the story of, I was completely discouraged, like destructively, like to the point where I was just like, I'm just going to sell my mic. I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'm still here. And that's what matters. Showing up and just having the grit and perseverance to push through all those negative things and cloud it out and really focus on the constructive feedback and the things that will help and the comments that will help me improve this podcast and improve myself as a person. Not the ones that are saying like, why are you doing that? Like, so like, oh, who do you think you are? That's the worst thing you can say to someone other than like, you're not the boss of me. Like, I hate when people say that. But again, it really made me think this summer, right? Because I wanted to take like a little summer break. It made me really think this summer about the people that have these big dreams and are completely dampened by the world around them. And what's even worse in the world around them are the people around them that are dampening the dreams that they have for themselves. And, the one thing that this world lacks other than money, not money, the thing that this world lacks completely, that we completely forget about in life is we have a major deficit in our belief in ourselves. And that is something that is going to be so destructive, more than we think. We're always focusing on like the financial crisis and things like that. But the real crisis is actually happening within ourselves, because we lived in a world of COVID of 2020 when we were just alone with our thoughts and it was really scary. But the thing is, what was really scary about it is that we actually had to face our true emotions for the first time in forever, right? And that was the scariest part. And the thing is, a lot of us were very scared, and that's why mental health was through the roof during that time because, we were really scared just being alone and losing that momentum, going outside and, going about our days. And it was just completely constricted to, sorry about that, the phone keeps going. But we were just completely constricted to our own room and just stuck with our own thoughts. And those thoughts, most of the time, are really scary. And the thing is, on the other side of it, we realized things that we were capable of. We were capable of doing so many things, especially when you're working from home. You're still able to do all the things that your work requires of you while still maintaining some sort of work-life balance. And that's something that really opened our eyes during the COVID time. So there are things that may seem scary, but there are always brighter sides to things. And I just want to let you know and clarify that their major deficit that we're experiencing here, not in America, right? It's not country based or country dependent. It is globally, is our belief in ourselves. And because we lack that, because we are scared of what the world is telling us, we're scared of what people may think about us. But the thing is, if it makes you happy, is that something you're passionate about and you have a clear vision about where you want to go and who you want to become, that is enough. And like going back to my students in science class saying that they want to be entrepreneurs, that idea that they planted in themselves that they want to be more than what the world is, selling them to become, right? Like imagine just being 13 years old and saying you want to be an entrepreneur. How powerful the existence of the idea in that given person is. It's not age dependent. There are so many people that are making more money than 20 somethings that are only like 13, 14 because they're so smart and creative with how they freelance their time and how they freelance their abilities and skills. So you're capable of more than you think. And I think that's why I'm going to name this podcast, because you are capable of more than you think. This world, guaranteed, will test your perseverance, will test your grit. It's going to ask you, are you willing to break through this brick wall that I put in front of you? No? Okay, well, join 99% of the world because everyone else is scared. Now, the difference between the successful and unsuccessful people is not the brick walls that are put in their place, but the grit and perseverance that they implement in order to get through that brick wall. Whether they break through it, they climb it, they go around it, they find a way to go through it and maintain that vision and belief in themselves. Because one thing you should know is that, like I said, the major deficit in the world right now is not financial or anything like that. Those are major, but the biggest deficit that we have is belief in ourselves. Do you believe in yourself? Do you trust yourself enough to take that leap of faith with your business, to take a leap of faith with in your academics, things like that? Because you are capable of more than you think. And there's a good rule of saying that whatever you're doing right now, just think about it as only 10% of what you're capable of. And the other 90% is just waiting and asking you, are you willing to go the long way? And it's going to be harder. It is going to be harder. And you're going to be greeted with a lot more criticisms, because there will be criticisms discouraging you and things like that. Example A, but are you still here? Are you still showing up? If the answer is yes, welcome to the 1% of the 1%, because the world is scared. The world is fearful, but you are not. You are not. You are capable of so many things. You have so many ideas in you. Just because someone's saying that it's crazy that you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur because you're introverted, that you're incapable of being like an actor because you don't have those abilities, all these skills, all these things can be learned. And if you're willing to push through and ignore all these negative comments and understand and believe in yourself enough, right? You have that belief in your vision that you want to become who that actor is, or who you want to reach a level that you think is attainable, but everyone else thinks it's not. That is what's going to separate you from everyone else. It's not a matter of how hard, how much more time you put into something, but it's how much heart you put into something. It's about how much feeling and passion that you put into something, because someone that's passionate can do something that is very hard in half the time than someone that's not passionate, probably even a fraction of the time. So if you have that passion, if you have that drive, you have everything, that like you just take some reflection that that you can do, that is enough to push forward. And you, my friend, have grit, you have perseverance. And grit and perseverance, look it up. Grit, The Power of Grit by, I forgot, it's like Duckworth. Ooh, I'm forgetting who mentions this. You having grit or perseverance completely disseminates the people that only have willpower and motivation, because you are willing to take the hard route and you are willing to punch through those brick walls or climb those brick walls or whatever. And no matter how many brick walls are going to be thrown in your place, I don't know why I keep going to brick walls, but you are capable. You are understandable of the situations, but you have a vision. You have something to reach for. And no amount of motivation or willpower that anyone has is comparable to you understanding yourself and understanding and believing yourself, because that is the major deficit that we have in this life. I'm going through this too. So this is where this episode's coming from. It's me projecting on you. So, Sarcastically Optimistic, thank you so much, guys, for listening. It's good to be back. It feels good to just put it out there. I'm just not going to overthink things anymore. You shouldn't overthink things. Take some time to reflect on who you are, who you want to become, and where you want to be, right? And that is going to take you farther than anyone else, because no one else is asking that question, because that question is extremely scary. But if you ask yourself those tough questions, you're going to build that grit and perseverance, and getting better at 1% each day, it's going to be wild. So I believe in you all. I love you guys. You guys are amazing people. Thank you for really sticking with me throughout this whole process. It's been really quite scary about where this is going. And I was just like, I can't read as many books as I'm covering. So I'm not going to use books as a crutch anymore. This podcast is going to go in not a completely different direction, but in a direction that's more genuine, that's not using books as a crutch, but as vehicles, and trying to maximize the value that you're trying to get out of this. So that's what this podcast is for. Chaotic shower thoughts, as I like to call it. But I really hope that you're obtaining tools. I'm not telling you that you should do this or do that, but just mere suggestions and hopefully some concepts that you can, again, use as tools in your own life. So, Sarcastically Optimistic. Glad to be here. Glad to persevere through the negative comments. I'm really happy that you're here, and I hope that you're persevering through all those negative comments. Identify those negative comments and punch through. You got this, all right? Well, I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. It's hot as hell, but you know who else is hot as hell? That's right. Me. No, I'm just kidding. Us. We hot. Make a dragon want to retire, man. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to cut it off here. It's been great, guys. I'll see you guys next week. All right. Catch you on the flippy flop, guys. Goodbye.
Baby, why you always smoke a J, relax and watch some anime, come through the pad I'm trying to play. A Super Smash Bros, what you know? Wait to let me pick Lucario, you don't even know what I'm saying. Up B, and down.